Could this year be the time where the Galaxy Z Flip series cements itself as a solid flagship option? Not just because of the redesign, but now because of the battery life. Well, let's find out in this extreme mega battery drain test between the Z Flip 7, the Flip 7 FE, the Flip 6, the Flip 5, and the Flip 4 on mobile cellular data only with no Wi-Fi option. Let's get into it. No time wasting, let's kick things off with this extreme battery drain test between the Z Flip 7, the Flip 7 FE, the Flip 6, the Flip 5, and the Flip 4. Now, I will get into the exact parameters of what I did to set up these phones for this extreme battery drain test, but for now, all you need to know is that we are doing this purely on mobile cellular data only with no Wi-Fi option. And with our extreme battery drain test, we do shoot it as one continuous video with no stops in 4K and no skips. And we only speed it up in the important areas so you don't have to sit around for hours like I had to. So if you appreciate the effort and the detail and the realism that we put into our controlled extreme battery drain test, then be sure to like, subscribe, and turn the notifications so you don't miss any future videos on the Lover of Tech channel, especially when it comes to our extreme battery drain test. Road to 100,000 subscribers is back on the table for 2025, and with your help and engagement, we can make it happen. Now, we've got 8 applications, 9 tasks, 1 hour each. First thing we're going to do is kick off with the main camera usage at the back in 4K 60 continuous video. And let me tell you, this battery drain test is the jammiest and the most difficult I've done. I only ever test up to 4 phones. And you're going to see as we go through, I will break it down and explain why. But I had some major curveballs come up. And this was from the start and the jump. And it was just something that was spinning me. And I was experiencing things that I don't usually experience when doing these battery drain tests. And yeah, you're gonna notice that something very unusual is going to happen. And it happens pretty much right now. And it's with the Galaxy Z Flip 6. It overheated. Yeah, around the 37-minute mark, 25 seconds, the Galaxy Z Flip 6 overheated and the camera would no longer work. And it was something that was really surprising to me. Why it was surprising to me is there's no phone that I've used that's actually done this. Yeah, especially for the 2025 edition of our extreme battery drain test. Now, measuring the temperature, we're getting around 51.2 degrees Celsius. This was very, very, very concerning. And yeah, I needed to wait for the application for the camera to cool down. Felt it to the touch and it felt really hot. Now, measuring the Flip 7, this was around 43.6 degrees Celsius. Then looking at the Flip 7 FE, this was 45.6 degrees Celsius. So well below 50 degrees C. And if you look at the Flip 6, yeah, it got very, very toasty. Even the Flip 5 was around 48.6 degrees Celsius. And if we go back to the Flip 4, nice and cool at 45.0 degrees Celsius. This is something that was absolutely tripping me and spinning my head. Now, how long did I need to wait before I could actually continue with the video recording? So this is a very early trip up. And looking at the ambient temperature of the room, we're looking at around 27.0 degrees Celsius. Again, 50.4, around that just below 40-minute mark, waiting and waiting. It still wasn't allowing me to use the camera application. Yeah, this is quite an early concern when it comes to the Flip 6. Now, how long before I could actually start using a camera application? Again, this was actually around the 41-minute 31-second mark. That's when the camera application was allowing me to use it again because it felt like the phone had cooled down enough. This seems to be a failsafe that's in the Flip 6, and I'm guessing on the other flip phones as well, but they didn't experience it. It was only the Galaxy Z Flip 6 that did, which again, quite concerning this early on into the drain test. Now, let's see if it makes it all the way to the hour interval as we're pretty much going through. Is it going to overheat again? I hopefully think it doesn't. Let's get to the 1 hour mark. At the 1 hour mark, we're looking at 87% battery, 43.3 degrees Celsius, minus 13% battery loss on the Flip 7, and then 83% battery, 45.5 degrees Celsius, minus 17% battery loss on the FE, and then 79% battery, 51.4 degrees Celsius, minus 21% battery loss. Yeah, Flip 6 struggled. And then 79% battery, 49.2 degrees Celsius, minus 21% battery loss on the Flip 5, and the Flip 6, it just overheated. So yeah, this is insane that we're experiencing this on the Flip 6. And then the final battery reading is on the Flip 4. And that is what we have when it comes to the battery reading. And with it, is at 81% battery, 45.3 degrees Celsius, minus 19% battery loss. Yeah, this is a very, very interesting one when it comes to the camera usage in the Flip 6. Now, as we're pretty much blitzing through into the next interval, we'll see that when we're taking the temperature readings, things are nice and cool on the other Flip devices. But yeah, with this, I don't know. This is a very, very interesting outcome when it comes to the early stages of this drain test, and it really, really, really surprised me. We're pretty much gonna carry on and get through this and see how we are when we move into Instagram live streams. And then I faced another problem. 5 devices. Now, usually with the live stream, and I'm doing this on mobile cellular data only on the selfie camera, and I had to create a 5th Instagram account because this is something that I needed for the Flip 4, only to realize that the terms of usage for Instagram is pretty much changed when it comes to live streaming, where if you have a new account, it looks like you can't basically live stream straight away. And it looks like if you've got less than 1,000 followers as well, you might not be able to live stream anymore, which is just baffling and strange. I recently just previously did the battery drain test on a Z Fold 7 against the Fold 6 and the Fold 5. No issues there. So this must be a very recent thing. I tried to actually use one of the other accounts on the other phone to stream, but you can't stream 2 separate accounts on 2 separate phones at the same time. Or sorry, the same account on 2 separate phones at the same time. This just left me in a dilemma, because then I was thinking this might invalidate the results that I'm getting on the Flip 4, which is a shame. Now, it's not the end of the world, because the main point of focus is on the Flip 7, Flip 7 FE, the Flip 6 and the Flip 5. But it would have just been nice for it to actually have gone as smoothly as I wanted it to. And I was just trying to think on the fly what to do. Next I tried was to actually guest co-collaborative live stream with one of the other accounts. But again, that's also blocked on this new account that I created for the Flip 4 for this extreme battery drain test. Again, this is something that was an absolute curveball for me. I wasn't expecting this, so I jumped on one of the live streams to see. Now, checking the battery percentages, I was basically seeing if this would be enough or the same battery drainage, and I don't think it is. When referencing last year's extreme battery drain test, I could actually see that maybe potentially there might be some percentage parity. When we get to the end, we'll see. Now, halfway through, that's when I get to the end where I realized that I had an old Instagram account from way back when I was doing work for Microsoft, that I managed to figure out the password, log in, and the live streaming worked with 10 minutes to go until the 2-hour mark on the Flip 4. So again, I can only apologize. I was really doing my best to make sure that it went as smoothly and validated as possible, but nothing but curveballs were coming on my way. So this is pretty much getting to the end. We're gonna look at the percentage of the Flip 4 and see how valid it is for the end of the test. But I think overall, focusing on the Flip 7, Flip 7 FE, Flip 6, and the Flip 5, that's gonna be the main point of call, because they have gone as we've expected. Thus, apart from the curveball that we saw with the Flip 6 overheating in the camera test. Now, we've got to the 2-hour interval, and what do we have for the battery percentage? We've got 68% battery, 46.9 degrees Celsius, minus 19% battery loss on the Flip 7, and then 59% battery, 51.5 degrees Celsius, minus 24% battery loss on the 7 FE, and then 58% battery, 49.8 degrees Celsius, minus 21% battery loss on the Flip 6, and then 52% battery, 50.4 degrees Celsius, minus 27% battery loss on the Flip 5. And then we've got 63% battery, 45.0 degrees Celsius, minus 18% battery loss on the Flip 4. So we can probably account for somewhere between an additional 5 to 8% battery loss. I will reference last year's 2024 edition of the Extreme Battery Drain Test on mobile data. That was with the Flip 6, the Flip 5, and the Flip 4. And you can pretty much see the Instagram section, how much battery was lost there to kind of gauge, and was somewhere around an additional maybe 5 to 8% that we can account for that might have been less. So it would have probably been on par, maybe around the Flip 6 and the Flip 5 and the FE. But again, let's run it all the way to the end and let's see how the results are for the Flip 7 and the Flip 7 FE, as they are the main focus device and the new ones as we are pretty much pushing through. So we're going to start the next interval testing, and this one here is pretty much going to be TikTok. Now, with TikTok, I always say TikTok is like the wicked wild west when it comes to consuming content and posting content. So yeah, you don't really know how things are going to perform, but it kind of really does do well depending on what content you're bespokely posting for there. And for us, if you want to see more vertical related tech content, then definitely follow us on TikTok at Lover of Tech BA. Now, as we're pretty much going through and hitting the 1 hour mark there, at the 3 hour mark, it's 53% battery, 40.0 degrees Celsius, minus 15% battery loss on the Flip 7, and then 42% battery, 38.7 degrees Celsius, minus 17% battery loss on the 7 FE, and then 42% battery, 39.3 degrees Celsius, minus 16% battery loss on the Flip 6, 32% battery, 40.7 degrees Celsius, minus 20% battery loss on the Flip 5, and then 46% battery, 39.1 degrees Celsius, minus 17% battery loss on the Flip 4. So the Flip 4 in terms of efficiency is actually a lot better than I was expecting. And we're looking at it, the Flip 7, that's really the one that is bossing it all the way through and taking charge. So whatever's happening with the increased battery capacity as well as the efficiency that's coming from this new Exynos 2500 chipset and software optimization with Android 16 and One UI 8.0, I think that might be doing the work. Let's carry on and go through. Next interval is Instagram Reels, and I always say this, Instagram right now is probably my favorite social media application with the amount of reels and memes that I'm sending between me and my friends, but also the behind the scenes. So if you want to see what's happening with the next set of videos and what's happening with events and travel, then definitely follow us at loveroftech_BA on Instagram. After now with Instagram Reels is 39% battery, 39.5 degrees Celsius, minus 14% battery loss on the Flip 7, 28% battery, 39.1 degrees Celsius, minus 14% battery loss on the 7 FE, and then 28% battery, 39.1 degrees Celsius, minus 14% battery loss on the Flip 6, 15% battery, 40.1 degrees Celsius, minus 17% battery loss on the Flip 5, and then 30% battery, 41.0 degrees Celsius, minus 16% battery loss on the Flip 4. The Flip 5, man, it's in the red zone, as we call it. And I've said this from the first experience with the Flip last year. Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to the first time I did the battery drain test last year, it didn't really hold up. Now, let's move over to YouTube. We are actually watching one of our definitive camera comparisons, 1440p 60 FPS full screen. And right now, who goes first? It's the Flip 5. 4 hours, 44 minutes, and 33 seconds. A final temperature reading of 40.8 degrees Celsius. In 5th place is the Galaxy Z Flip 5. Now, if things didn't go pear-shaped with the Flip 4, could it have beaten it? Who knows? Let's see, and let's carry on and see the results that we get with the other devices. We hit the hour interval at 5 hours, 26% battery, 39.7 degrees Celsius, minus 12% battery loss on the Flip 7. And then 12% battery, 39.4 degrees Celsius, minus 16% battery loss on a 7 FE, and then 13% battery, 39.8 degrees Celsius, minus 15% battery loss on a Flip 6, and then 13% battery, 40.0 degrees Celsius, and then that is minus 17% battery loss on the Flip 4. So again, the Flip 4 is holding its own when it comes to efficiency. Not the most efficient, definitely that goes to the Flip 7. It's really holding it down, more than double the capacity of what you're getting with the 7 FE, as well as the Flip 6. Now, let's get into the YouTube music section, listening to the College Dropout, and this is where it's interesting. Look at the Flip 7 FE, the Flip 6, and the Flip 4. They're all on the same percentage. We've got to 1%. Who's gonna go first? Who's gonna go first? Actually, it's going to be the Flip 6. And then 2 seconds later is the Flip 4. That's crazy. So the Flip 6 gets a finishing time of 5 hours, 50 minutes, and 6 seconds. Final temperature reading of 38.3 degrees Celsius in 4th place. And then 5 hours, 50 minutes, and 8 seconds, 39.1 degrees Celsius. In 3rd place is the Flip 4. Again, maybe the Flip 4 would have died earlier if it didn't have actually the experience it did with the struggle with Instagram live streaming. But the Flip 7 FE is not that far off, and that goes at 5 hours, 51 minutes, and 49 seconds. A final temperature reading of 38.0 degrees Celsius in 2nd place. So they are roughly around the same when it comes to the battery life, but it's really the Flip 7 that is bossing it. It gets to the 6 hour mark. We do have a battery reading of 12%, a temperature reading of 39.7 degrees Celsius, and minus 14% battery loss. Now into the X Spaces or Twitter Spaces. Are you X or Twitter? Let me know in the comment section below. Here is where we pretty much discuss and go into the chat room service, where I like to talk to my audience and other content creators about what's happening in the world of tech when it comes to the latest updates or the latest products and just opinions and shares. And that is a good place to do it. Now, getting into this point, we are now in the red zone where it's hit below 5%. Is it going to make it to the 7-hour mark where gaming starts? And it does. 3% left, 36.5 degrees Celsius minus 9% battery loss on the Flip 7. That means we can start gaming. Pure screen on time of 7 hours and plus. That is impressive. But when we look at the graphics, we can see that the graphics settings, the refresh rate of the display is actually limited on the Exynos 2500 to 80 FPS. That's quite interesting, even though the max settings are there. Kind of wanted to show it. Now let's get on with the gaming. As we're pretty much going through, how long are we going to be able to game on the Flip 7 with this amount left? And we get to this point where it does actually call it in at 7 hours, 4 minutes and 56 seconds. Final temperature reading of 42.2 degrees Celsius. In first place is the Galaxy Z Flip 7. So in fifth place is the Galaxy Z Flip 5 with a finishing time of 4 hours, 44 minutes and 33 seconds. So yeah, it's a tough one with the extreme battery drain test this year compared to last year. But even last year, the Flip 5 was bested by the Flip 4 by a good margin. And it looks like we are pretty much in the same boat again. But yeah, fifth place does go to the Z Flip 5, finishing time of 4 hours, 44 minutes and 33 seconds. And in fourth place by a super narrow margin is the Z Flip 6 with a finishing time of 5 hours, 50 minutes and 6 seconds. I'm gonna put an asterisk on this one for the Flip 6 because it did overheat twice. One major one within the 1 hour interval, and then at the end when I was doing the reading in the camera section for 4K 60 recording. So yeah, take that with whatever grain of salt that you want. But this is the position it got right now in consideration to that particular moment that happened with the overheating. In fourth place, Z Flip 6, 5 hours, 50 minutes and 6 seconds. And with a super narrow lead ahead, in third place is the Z Flip 4 with a finishing time of 5 hours, 50 minutes and 8 seconds. Now we are going to caveat the fact that there was a bit of a struggle to get the live streaming going for the Flip 4 with the 5th account that I needed to sign in for Instagram. So again, there could have been an additional 5 to 8% battery loss if we're referencing last year's extreme battery drain test with how much battery is used when Instagram live streaming. But in this particular situation, this is what we got. Just by 2 seconds ahead of the Flip 6, it did finish in third place, and that is the Z Flip 4, 5 hours, 50 minutes and 8 seconds. And in second place is the Z Flip 7 with a finishing time of 5 hours, 51 minutes and 49 seconds. Not that far ahead of the Flip 6, but it deserves this win because it did not overheat at all. It managed itself throughout the whole test well, even packing the same 4,000 milliamp hour battery. So this is a good look for the Flip 7 FE. Second place goes to it. Finishing time 5 hours, 51 minutes and 49 seconds. And in first place is the Z Flip 7 with a finishing time of 7 hours, 4 minutes and 56 seconds. This is such a great look when it comes to battery life performance in our indoor controlled extreme battery drain test. And yeah, the increase to the battery capacity, the Exynos 2500 and potentially the Android 16 One UI 8.0 update and optimization there is really helping it. Regardless, we've got to give it praise. Samsung have done a great initial job with the battery life with the Flip 7. Finishing time 7 hours, 4 minutes, 56 seconds in first place. Now we've reached the end. What were the exact parameters that we used to set these devices up for this extreme battery drain test? Like we said, we did this completely on mobile cellular data with no Wi-Fi usage. This was done on Vodafone UK's 4G prepaid network. Next is battery health. Now this is a very hard one to get the exact rating, but we went into the Samsung members application, did a phone diagnostics and had a battery health reading rating for all these devices. And you can see for yourself that it just says normal and good. You can also see the rated battery capacity sizes across all of them with extra description of what the exact capacity is down below. As you're seeing across the board that this is saying that the battery life health is good and in normal status. So all these devices should be good enough for this extreme battery drain test. Now further as we're going through the settings, you will see that for the Flip 7, the Flip 7 FE, and the Flip 6 that you can actually see the exact granular detail of the battery health in percentage when the batteries were first used in terms of manufactured as well. You'll see that a bit later. For screen brightness calibration, we disabled all manner of adaptive brightness technology, and with a clear white background, we did try and calibrate all the displays to 200 nits as close as possible to make it consistent with our previous indoor extreme battery drain test so that we can have that running on all the devices. Here's also a quick reference of the Geekbench 6 scores across these devices, and it's very interesting. For the single core performance, it still does look like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 4-Galaxy chipset in the Flip 6 is the best performing. When it comes to multi-core, by a slight margin, it is the Flip 7 that has the highest multi-score points. Now, it's not by much, there could be a parity, but overall, it does look like the 8 Gen 3 4-Galaxy chipset in terms of power and performance on the CPU is the overall more powerful than the Exynos 2500. Then in terms of the single core, you're actually looking at the 8 Gen 2 4-Galaxy on the Flip 5. So this is just a very interesting breakup with how these Exynos power chipsets are scoring here. Now for the other settings that we had for these devices, and it's going to be similar across the board because they are pretty much very similar phones in that retrospect. When we go to the display, like we said, adaptive brightness has been off, screen is on vivid, adaptive 120 Hz is on as well. Now when we go into the battery settings, we can see that the power saving options, we've disabled everything that will stop it having a consistent runtime, which is things like limiting CPU performance down to 70%. All of that has been toggled off. Battery protection has been toggled off. Of course, we're not charging, so that's not something that we need to worry about right now. When it comes to the auto dim display at 5%, we've disabled that. And you will see a final reading of the battery health, but you can see here the battery health is 100%, no charge cycle in there. And you can see that the manufacture date for the main battery is 22nd of May 2025, and then the sub battery 25th of May 2025. And then you can see that it was first used on the 17th of July 2025 as well. So with One UI update and these newer devices, you get much more of a granular outlook on the battery health, and you'll see that for the Flip 6 and the Flip 5 as well. Now for the performance profile for all these devices, we are leaving them in their standard performance profile mode. And when we look at the software update, all of them are running the latest version of their software available. And it's interesting because it was actually the Flip 6 that had the July update pushed to it. All the other devices are on the June security update with their latest version of Android. So for the Flip 7 and the Flip 7 FE, it is Android 16 with One UI 8.0, and they are on the June update. And for the Flip 6, that is Android 15, but that is on the July update. That update hasn't been pushed to the Flip 5 and the Flip 4, so just take that into consideration. This is something that happened just before I was about to start the test. For all the checks that I did the day before, it didn't come, but it did arrive there. So we've got the latest update across all these devices. Now for courtesy, this is the battery health information section for all these devices. I highly recommend you pause it, you watch in 4K, you zoom in to see exactly the information that you need. But what is interesting is that the Flip 6 has less than 50 charge cycles at 42, and it was first used on the 24th of July 2024, and this is still at 100% battery health, so it's in more than the right condition to work the way it needs to work. So yeah, take all that information for what you have. We've put the right parameters and we're working with the best we have to make this test valid. Now that is it with this mega extreme battery drain test between the Flip 7, the Flip 7 FE, the Flip 6, the Flip 5, and the Flip 4. This has to probably be the most difficult and challenging and the most curveballs that I've experienced with an extreme battery drain test. So if you appreciate the effort, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos on the channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Is this what you were expecting? Were you as impressed as I am, especially with the Flip 7, or was there something more that you wanted to see? Let me know your thoughts. That's it for me, Ben from Lover of Tech. If you enjoyed this video, you know exactly what to do. Hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're part of Team TLS, the Tech Lover Squad, so you don't miss any future videos on the channel. I hope you're all safe during this time. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.